Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Coming live from Fire Up Your Heart, children of God. Seems to be shutting down, so I gotta figure something out with the... every time I try to find the trash or where I can delete stuff, it never pops up until I get a notification. And we've tried to find it in like another area on the phone. Okay, so we're gonna go back to Joshua today at chapter 10. It's quite long, so I'm not going to read through it all the way. I did read through it on my own, and more or less, it's one of the last tribes that Joshua took out. Part of the Babylonian conquest. They are some of the first, the Amorites. That's what chapter 10 is. In Joshua was one of the many that Joshua was led by God, or he was the only one that was willing to do it, or there wasn't much to pick from, but he was willing through God's strength and courage and from within his faith to conquer the takeover of the Babylonian quest, we'll call it. And it seems like we still have problems with that. It just never stopped. And I think that that's one of my pet peeves with life is when you see, like, so if I've been here 50 years and you see the same cycle of evil remanufacturing another method of being evil, but yet it just goes right back to the use of human sacrifice for evil power. And the more that we ignore the evil and we don't confront it when it's safe to do so, or call it out, it doesn't require a threat or nothing. In this modern era, I personally believe Jesus will let us know one day that we probably needed to use our military capacity and possibly put the focus more on removing evil from the planet, opposed to sending our sons and daughters and our brothers and sisters over in needless genocidal wars that are over, guess what? Still the practice of hiding human abuse. And we're going to, like I said, I'm just going to be using that in a broad sense of the term, but it can get really dark and gnarly under the deep, deep underground. And that, unfortunately, is still flourishing. However, there are some kinks in the road now, and evil is scrambling. Most of the group that runs our country are all in on the same operation with a different photograph, a different label. Until we stop hiding, excusing, ignoring, protecting on a legal level murders, rapists, child traffickers, predators. Michigan is crumbling. Like right now, I can hear it. It's crumbling so fast that I can literally hear the crumbling. Like if you were to take dried out bread that's stale and you're just crumbling it, and it's on your fingers and it's sticky and it's weird, and you have to dust it off because it's crumbling. It's so dried out and unedible that it's just crumbling into its demise. I don't like to look at the camera. I really don't. It's first of all, it's just highly distracting. Joshua's army was one of the smallest, yet he, with his faith, it was God's thumb on him or God's light on him, that he performed military miracles with what he had only because of Creator God, and only because he was willing to uncover these dark corridors. And something interesting about Joshua 10, and this was being shown to me the last few days, was like boulders and mountains, and moving these mountains, and these boulders are crumbling, and they're like shooting up in the air, and underneath the boulders the evil was trying to hide, and it can't anymore. So God's just going to keep letting this stuff blow up, and you're like, well, it was man-made. The seed, the cloud seeding they've been doing forever to disrupt the weather and cause catastrophes in areas where the land was lush and they wanted, and it was land grabs. They have been causing so much mayhem that it is really quite unreal. And the sad part is what they did is they used financial strife, extremely chaotic inflations, deflations, and it is all human trafficking. I don't care. Someone can tell me it's something else. It's really not. The main power for them to pull off the stunts they're pulling is still the fact that these people are still just getting away with this. I knew Monroe County, Michigan was sick, but I mean, until being stuck here for so long, and God just like slapping stuff in my face repeatedly, and lots of sabotageal things thrown my way to derail me, or to get me to react, or then to get me back in the hospital. Then they could do some more mislabeling, but yet I had called a spade, and I had unveiled an entire hotel system along with the transport from tidbits from this sicko that thought he was going to actually be able to snatch me up. Now, you'd say that just is the most outlandish story. It is. But the thing is that it is what it is. And that has hurt my credibility even prior to that, because the family was working overtime. Because they were very sick, and I didn't know how sick it was, because I was trying to just keep some of it subdued to some degree to kind of navigate my own life with my son, no matter how many times I got whipped and railed around, and then it would affect his life too, and it did. The thing is that God has had enough. That was why I went on YouTube several years ago, but I have discussed before, I did a race, more than 2. I know it was like 3 or 4. They didn't get anywhere either. Don't worry about it. Even if I probably was on certain platforms, I only navigate a couple, and I get immediate, like creepy stuff, like setups where it's even, maybe it's just hackers, but if I were to try to navigate, I had the worst time on Facebook way back, like Middle Eastern thing got really out of control. It wasn't the good side of the Middle East, and try to leave me a bit out of this. But this message technically today is for those that say, and I've been there most of my life, was, God, this is too big. What sort of sicko situation is this? And you trust me, there's been hundreds of times that I'm like, this is too much, Lord. This makes no sense. You wouldn't just let me take the kid off somewhere and raise him with a little peace? You just keep letting the pedophiles in the family track me down? This is making no sense. And if I say, you've gone too far, you've crossed a boundary, what are you doing? And they're on the phone with law, lying and conniving and scheming. I'm going to tell one short story. That neighbor, I said Sean Leonard, they came to town. They were some of the richest people in the world. Or they moved then into a larger mansion-style house. They were so rich, they were able to petition the college to get a special driveway off another main road through a wooded area just for them, along an old railroad. That was where I met Mr. Sean Leonard. and he was destroyed. And the family was doing satanic on him. I assume I was involved in a number of arenas, but I wouldn't be able to remember them. I just remember the morning thereafter, well, trying to run away in the middle of the night with no clothes on, and the effects of what was given to me. So I would get deathly sick. During the bust of the situation where the police had been framing and probably threatening Sean, but I assume he got sick in the process, his mom and dad, wealthiest lawyer and a travel agency in town, you could say they probably own parts of the town. He would do the most heinous things to his son. I mean, it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. That should petrify anyone. So when you see people with a lot of money and you think that it's all, and sometimes it is, sometimes it's kosher. It's hard work, sweat and tears. They work their way up the totem pole and they figured out a way to really make the moolah. But generally speaking, the biggest dollars out there are from people that have either exploited in some way illegally the lands, part of these pipelines and stuff. I mean, were the oil spills and stuff not enough back in the 70s and 80s and all that? It's just, we can't stop. So, there, as Allen Ginsberg said, I don't know if I posted that video, I did, dedicated to the court system here. We are still just a bloodthirsty nation, and there is hell to pay for that. So, God has given so much time, and nobody is listening enough still. And this is what it would simply take, is a shift in your mentality. This isn't manifestation, by the way. It's actually in the Bible all over the place. What we fix on is what we create, in a way. In a way. Okay, now that's not involving heavy persecutions. But what we fix on with the Lord, what is our calling? What does He keep us fixed on? That's what we will, I guess, unveil or produce. Now, my type of situation and people like me, it's a little bit different tango for sure. It for sure is. They get us early, and they get it on paper early. And those of us, they know that we're repeatedly raped and violated as children, we are watched. Because chances are our bodies were shared with those that shouldn't have been sharing our bodies as youngins. So there's these roles, or you could say these personas, that are displayed for these families that do this to children. And it can happen in your Midwest regions, it can happen in the poor regions, and there is a lot of child abuse in poor regions, but there is a different mentality with the abuse and the terror of children when it's with a higher tier of people that have money. They are able to maneuver their evil sorcery powers through voodoo on different parts of the planet. Voodoo is out of control. And people say, well, we have more power over voodoo. Yes, we do. But, however, because evil has gone unleashed and just too many people stuck their head in the sand and they went along with the evangelical, just follow the government no matter what they're doing mentality. Just follow it. Don't say a word. This is where we landed. And be it you inadvertently knew or not, you were protecting the wrong group. You were protecting the wrong people. And your focus was on the wrong incentives of your career or your choice for your life. When you have billions of people manifesting their own world and their own calling, and it's not through your Creator God and what you were made to do, you're a con. And He doesn't like that either. He doesn't like that either. So when we have, and I'm going to loop back around to like cloud seeding, and because I had a couple friends, they would say they love Jesus, but they'd say, yeah, but there's all this weather manipulation, as if it was separate from God. And I would catch myself in that sometimes. But see, we let all these other perverse doctrines come in, and God just said, okay, you guys seem to really know what you're doing down there. So we'll just wait to see how it goes. So that's where we are. That's where we are. Most of us are behaving no higher than a 2 to 4 year old level, me included. I say some of the most stuff on Cura when I write my little monologues, because I'm quite frankly sick of all of it. So, but in the sense of if you feel like you're in a situation where it's so much bigger than you, those are sometimes the times that we have to just really, really cling to God, because some of us are in things that are so surmountably evil around us and have built up for decades on us. It's questionable sometimes. But Jesus is Jesus, and he does how he says to do fit. And I know for 30 some years he would say they have to be gathered together. Some of the older ones would have to pass on, but that he had to let them gather together. Yeah, no doubt. Sometimes I would see it as he was gathering the predator protectors together. So eventually it would get so sloppy, there would be a time frame in time where they would become so sloppy and desperate to cover all of the darkness that they would go to just, it would get sloppy. And when it got really sloppy, with kind of the target on my head was during COVID. They got real sloppy. I mean, it was really unreal, actually. And so I think there was a lot of loose ends, and maybe they were kind of scrambling. They couldn't really find the right person to hire to shoot my head off at Brentwood. The one guy was supposed to do it. I think they had another guy do it, or he missed, and then they kind of shuffled them out. He would be a perfect key witness to do a confessional with the actual group that wants to help this problem in Monroe, Michigan, because I don't believe I'm alone. I know I'm not. And I know of people that have been shoved off, shunned off, and falsely accused and arrested for things they didn't do either. So, I get Nigeria and Antifa. I don't know what has gone on in Monroe here, but there's a strong vibe of this Nigerian, and it may have always been there, but something has definitely shifted. So, not the good part of Nigeria. Not sure what part. Okay. Is this Antifa still a problem? Because they don't care. They just want to get money and they want attention. So they'll go along with any rhyme or reason just to get money. So let's see if I hit what I needed to hit here. If God loved us, he would stop these things. He didn't want him to start, and he needed people to focus on what the real problem was way back when. That's it. But instead, the powers that ran things kept us scrambled, rambled, entertained to the hilt through Hollywood for a number of decades. And entertainment became at the forefront. And if you're being entertained all the time, you're going to kind of miss what's really going on. So I don't know if this can wake anyone up. You may not know what you're being paid off to do or to be rewarded to watch a certain able, or you're told a horrible story about one person, but you're mobbing them. You are actually participating in human sacrifice. Okay? If you hide and or protect evil, and you're mentally sick because of it, and you protect child abusers, exploiters, and forms form target on the persecuted or the scapegoats or the truth tellers, you are the problem. We can blame all the leaders all we want, but because we refuse to do our homework and look at what was really going on with corruption, we just wanted an easy, soft life. This is what we get. So the punishment is already, it's still going, and it's not going to stop. It's going to accelerate until enough people really focus on what's the problem. Stop minimizing it. Stop saying it's not as bad as it is. I'm just over the top and obsessed with it. No, quite frankly, this is the last thing on earth. If I were to go back 30 years with God, this was exactly not at all what I thought he and I were endeavoring on. But the thing is that the elephant was in the room, and he kept forcing me back because I had to see that it was right in the home that I was raised. The root of some of the most evil in this town was right in the home that I was raised in, right next to then when the lawyer moved in out back, making the special road by the people that raised me's barn, different stuff that I'm not going to get into right now. I was technically outlawed from the back perimeter of the property decades ago because of what I witnessed. The term Amorite and Canaanite seem to be interchangeable. In Kings 14:23 through 24, the sins of these people God drove out of the land includes male and female cult prostitutes who would have sex with worshippers of the foreign gods that served, burning children as sacrifices to Moloch or Moloch and to other Canaanite gods, necromancy and divination and sorcery. Sorcery is real, and with the right material, the right human sacrifices, the right enough evil doing the ceremonies, they can do quite a bit of damage. So I don't know. That's where I find people to be really dumb. Sorry to say it, but so I guess that's it. So I have a few more verses to read, and the one is in Joshua 10. I think I've read in here before. So in the sense of when God would keep telling me they have to be gathered together, they have to be in one clump, it wasn't time. Human trafficking, 30 years ago, if someone talked about it, I don't know if it just wasn't registering, really, was it? I mean, too many of us were protecting pedophiles and stuff, and child torturers. What's human trafficking? Well, I don't know. Did you see that Super Bowl? Verse 8 of 10. So even though Joshua had already been successful in the victory of Ai, it's Ai. Oh, on the thing of Ai, I'm 100% opposed. I've been opposed to cell towers, cell phones for the most part. All of it's from way back. So look at the hypocrite here speaking now. Because there's good to it, right? There's a lot of good to it. There's a lot of good to electricity, right? But what's the bads of it? I don't know. It always seems like the things that make our lives so much more convenient and wonderfully entertaining and easy are actually end up being the worst for humankind. So Okay, so what stood out on 10 for me was there was 5 kings. And the boulder thing is mentioned, so please read through this chapter. It's quite powerful, but there's a lot of death, and I'm just not up to reading it right now about all that. So, 8. And the Lord said unto Joshua, fear them not, for I have delivered them into thine hand. There shall not a man of them stand before thee. You can look up Joshua 11:6, Judge 14, Joshua 1:5 and verse 9, and Joshua 21:44. There was a couple more and I don't have them. So just go through there and so Joshua smote all the country of the hills and of the south and of the vale and of the springs and all the kings. He left none remaining, but utterly destroyed all that breathed, as the Lord God of Israel commanded, because it was so demented. Okay? And so when we are like, that's so cruel, that's so messed up, these people need help. I think we tried to help evil people. They've been trying to change the format of criminology and punishment, and I don't know if you notice, but it hasn't gotten any better. So when you hate God, you've forgotten about God, and you don't protect the children, those alone are enough for God to let the entire earth completely spin out into complete desolation. So I think some of the stuff is great that the Trump groups, the Trumpsters are doing. And once again, we're tied in with Israel. And so guess what? Nothing will change. It will not change. It will not change. If we don't become an independent country from the Middle East and all the ties, we're not going to change. It's not going to change. The catastrophes and trauma and upset and inflation and terror and abuse and homelessness will only increase. So they can't stop this throwing people from this one side over to the other. And it's too much for the human body and the mind and the psyche. And that's why you need Jesus. Chances are none of us have the ability to do what we need to do. But I know this shift with God in our minds, and that we no longer hide, tolerate, or make excuses for those destroying not only the planet and then blaming the regular people, but all of it, just all of it. And you don't want to always bring a lot of attention to evil. You don't. But when you feel led by God, we have to call it out. I've been backed into a corner a lot, and there was many, many years there I stayed shut up. But it didn't matter. They still would come to my property. They still would violate our privacy. They would still rummage through our whatever, our garbage and stuff. And I suppose when I was too close to the core of the problems here in Michigan, I would get whacked around by the evil. I can't tell you specifically how all of this is going to land with me. Quite frankly, I don't care, because I know it's all based in lies and deceit, and I know who's being protected. The most concerning part for all the evil in Monroe County, Michigan, is that God knows what he's doing. And you mishandled a situation that many, many are going to regret they mishandled, when it would have been much easier to let the mother leave with the son and leave us the fuck alone. And I would come back for Christmas and see all you sick fucks and let him see you sick fucks. But outside of that, I was going to find a new tribe. So I hope in your 80s and your 90s and your 70s and your 60s that you look back over time and you think, why didn't we just cut her loose with the kid? Because you'd already done stuff to him. And you didn't want us getting help. And you know it, and I know it. Because I was the only protector in the family. And this is disgusting. You exposed yourself. You can blame whatever you want, or try to frame however you want to frame, or do and word it the way you want. But you exposed yourself. And Jesus is laughing. And sometimes I do too. Just not today. Maybe later. I love you. Try to be good. You don't have to be perfect. Just don't fondle the children, and you're about 90% there.